A Nova Scotia MP who represents part of the most lucrative fishing area in the country is calling on the Prime Minister to tackle the unrest in southwest Nova Scotia. The area has been in turmoil for years as Ottawa struggles to regulate the fishery to the liking of both Indigenous and non-Indigenous fishermen. Chris D'Entremont is the recently re-elected Conservative MP for Acadie-Annapolis, joining us from the airport in Montreal. Sir, you're on your way back to the riding, but not before you sent a letter to the Prime Minister. What are you trying to accomplish with him?
Well, during the election, both the Liberal candidate and I talked a lot about the lobster fishery in southwest Nova Scotia, the challenges that they're having this season. It seems like stocks are way down. Fishermen are not catching anything. And this is because there's been, I believe, and fishermen believe that since there's been an unreported fishery going on for a number of years, that it's really starting to impact the stocks for the commercial fishery.
So it's a big question, but how do you go about starting to make the lobster fishery more sustainable?
Well, ultimately, we have to have a good idea of actually how much lobster is being taken out of those areas. Since it's been unreported, the commercial fishery does have to report all of their catches, so that when they do stock assessments, they actually have an idea of what's there. In this particular case, because of the summer fishery, there is no reporting, so we don't know how much is being taken out. We don't know what the quality of those fish or those lobster are in the summer. There's a lot of talk about it being a lobster nursery, so there's lots of eggs being impacted. So the next generation of lobsters are being affected. So for the sake of the lobster stock, we need to get a better handle on that. And the only way to do that is to enforce laws that are actually on the books.
Okay, I want to ask you about that, but just to go back to that initial point, if you don't have any data on how many lobsters are being fished in the summer, how can you blame that as the reason for what might be just a blip in the year in the landings?
Well, the landings have been slowly declining probably over the last 10 years. It is a fishery that goes up and down. This year it is dire. There really is no catch for the season. We're into the last couple of weeks of the lobster fishery. There has been no data at all being taken from our summer fisheries. We understand the challenges it has with food, ceremonial, and social opportunities. This is possibly an Indigenous fishery, but what we've been seeing is far larger than that. So there's a legal activity going on, and Department of Fisheries really has to get a handle so that we have an idea of where that stock is for the future.
Fisheries officers have, in the past at least, expressed concerns for their safety. Reports of some of them refusing their duties. How do you go about fixing that?
Well, we need to support them in their mission. We need to support them with the equipment and the methods to be able to execute their jobs. But at the same time, we need to empower them to actually do it, give them the clear mandates on what they should or should not be looking for, how they actually react with those individuals that are fishing at this point, making sure things are tagged correctly, making sure that the lobster traps are set up correctly. So there's a number of things that fisheries should be doing that they're not doing, that they're worried about certain implications. But I think for the sake of the fishery, it is the economy of southwest Nova Scotia that we really need to get a handle of what's going on.
Yeah, so that illegal fishery, whoever's responsible for it, is one thing. But of course, the struggle has long been to regulate the fishery in a way that satisfies both commercial and Mi'kmaq communities. So what's your answer for that?
Correct. Well, ultimately, we all need to sit down and actually have an adult conversation for the sake of that fishery. So we really need to be able to sit down and understand where the product is going, how much is being taken out, what the strength or the health of that fishery actually is. So, DFO really has to be, participating in the stock assessments and understanding what those stock assessments actually are, what the quality of that product is, where are we going? There are far too many questions that need to be answered. So I'm calling on the Prime Minister today to, sit down. We need to be able to talk about this, whoever that new Minister of Fisheries, if it's Ms. Thompson or not. We really need to be able to sit down and plan ahead of how to truly tackle this so that all participants in the fishery have an opportunity to make a living.
Okay, we'll wait to see what kind of response you get to that. On another note, you are campaigning to be Speaker again. Why do you want that post again?
Well, I mean, I think ultimately it's an interesting place to be. I've had the opportunity to be the deputy speaker over the last number of years. I think I've set up, I think, a fairly good rapport with many people in the House. It's an opportunity, I think, that's good for Southwest Nova Scotia. It's good for Nova Scotia to be known more on a national stage. So that's why my name is going forward again. We don't know where we're going to end up in the end because, of course, this being a minority government.
A lot of people wondered whether the Liberals would come asking for you to come over. Did they ask?
I've never been asked, and I don't think that would ever happen in my case.
So
I've been a happy progressive conservative, and now a happy conservative. So I don't. That would never actually happen in my.
So you would not like to be fisheries minister in Carney's government?
No, absolutely not.
So are you an MP who is squarely backing Pierre Poilievre then? How do you feel about a review of his leadership?
Well, ultimately, I support him in his mission. We were able to gain a number of ridings across the country. We have a vote share that is higher than even the Harper win back in 2011. We just fell short in a few places, and we really need to review what went wrong and how we're going to be able to remedy that in the future.
Any quick fix come to mind for you?
I think it's just getting Pierre on the ground. I mean, people didn't know Pierre very well. So I think, we need to step away a little bit from the big rallies and get him into Tim Hortons and visit businesses in local areas and having that more personal touch so that they get to know Pierre the way I know Pierre.
We'll see how his campaign goes out west. Chris D'Entremont, thanks for your time.
Thanks so much.